Hey everyone, welcome back. It's funny. We have all these devices in our homes these days. Our phones, TVs, even refrigerators that are all connected online.
It's amazing.
Right, like we are living in a sci-fi movie.
I know.
But seriously, all that connectivity can also open us up to some serious security risks.
It really can.
So for today's deep dive, we're going to be talking about home network security.
That's right.
And specifically, we're going to be drawing on the expertise shared on a cybersecurity podcast that I listened to recently.
Oh, cool.
So that means that today we're kind of like distilling all of that expert knowledge just for you.
I like it.
Making it accessible and hopefully a little bit more fun than just listening to a lecture on cybersecurity.
Definitely.
So are you ready to dive in?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
Okay, great. So the first thing that really struck me in that podcast was how fast things can go wrong with home networks.
Yeah, it's pretty alarming.
Like, we're not talking about hours or even minutes. They were saying that a poorly secured home network can be breached in seconds.
Yeah, that's what's
In
crazy.
Seconds. Wow. Okay, I'm officially terrified.
It is scary. And it's because hackers are using these automated tools that can scan the internet and find vulnerabilities incredibly quickly.
Okay, so it's not like someone's sitting in a dark room, like, typing code furiously.
Not necessarily.
They have, like, software that does it for them.
Exactly. So that means that if you're in a public space or even just a densely populated neighborhood with lots of devices online,
Oh, yeah.
your network could be scanned and potentially breached in just a few seconds.
Okay, that's unsettling.
It is, for sure.
So what are some of the biggest weak points that they're exploiting? Like, what makes it so easy for them to break into our networks?
Well, one of the biggest culprits is default router settings.
You mean like when you first set up your router and the username is admin and the password is password?
Exactly.
Oh my God, I am totally guilty of just leaving those as is.
I think a lot of people are.
Yeah, I just figured it was like a formality, just to get you started.
Right, but to a hacker, those default credentials are a golden ticket.
Yeah, that makes sense.
They have these automated tools, like I mentioned, that are constantly scanning the internet, looking for exactly these types of vulnerabilities.
And once they find a match.
They're in. Just like that.
Wow. Okay, so step one, change those default settings.
Absolutely.
But is it just about changing that initial password, or is there more to it? Like, what are some of the other things that can go wrong with a router's default setup?
Well, for example, some routers come with a default setting that allows remote access.
Remote access, what does that mean?
It means that anyone with the right know-how can control your router from anywhere in the world.
So if I don't disable that feature...
A hacker could essentially hijack your entire network.
Oh, no.
They could snoop on your internet traffic, redirect you to malicious websites,
Seriously?
even use your network to launch attacks on others.
Wow. Okay, that paints a pretty scary picture.
It does. And it really highlights the importance of going through your router settings and making sure that you're comfortable with all the defaults.
Yeah, definitely not going to ignore those settings anymore.
Good.
So, okay, changing default settings is step one. But what about the passwords we use for all of our other devices and accounts? How much of a difference does a strong password really make?
Oh, a huge difference. A strong, unique password for every single account is absolutely essential.
So like all my online accounts, all my devices?
Everything.
Okay.
Because weak passwords are incredibly vulnerable to something called brute force attacks.
Brute force, that sounds intense.
It is basically hackers use software to rapidly try out millions of possible password combinations until they crack the code.
So it's like they have a digital battering ram just slamming against your defenses until something gives?
That's a great analogy. And the scary part is, with today's processing power,
Yeah.
a simple password like password 123 can be cracked in seconds.
Literally seconds.
Literally seconds.
Okay, point taken, strong passwords it is.
Yep.
But keeping track of, like, dozens of complex passwords for everything, it just seems impossible.
Well, that's where password managers come in.
Password managers?
Yeah. They're like a digital vault that generates and stores all of your unique passwords. So you only need to remember one master password to access them all.
Ah, so instead of juggling like 100 keys, I just need one key to the master key ring.
Exactly.
Okay, I like it.
Good.
But even with the toughest passwords, it sounds like there are still other weak spots hackers can target.
That's right.
So what else do we need to worry about?
Well, remember how I mentioned a router's default settings being a problem?
Yeah.
It's not just the initial setup you have to worry about. It's also about keeping your router's firmware updated.
Okay, now firmware, that's a term I've heard but don't fully understand.
Okay. Yeah.
Is it like a software update for my router?
Exactly. Think of firmware as the operating system that controls your router. Just like Windows or Mac OS, runs your computer.
Okay.
And just like you need to update your computer's operating system to patch security holes,
Oh, yeah.
you need to update your router's firmware to keep it secure.
So each firmware update is like adding another layer of armor to my router's defenses?
Exactly. And those updates often include critical security patches that fix vulnerabilities that hackers could otherwise exploit.
So ignoring those updates is like leaving a giant hack me sign on my network.
Pretty much.
Okay, no more ignoring those update notifications. But it's not just the router, right? We've got smart TVs, security cameras, even light bulbs connected these days.
You've hit on a key point. The Internet of Things, or IoT as it's called,
OT. Okay.
has exploded, but security hasn't always kept pace.
Oh, that's not good.
Many of these devices are designed for convenience, not necessarily for robust security.
So my smart light bulb could be a weak link in my network's armor? That's kind of unnerving.
It can be. Yeah, think of it this way.
Okay.
Imagine a hacker gaining access to your network through a poorly secured smart camera.
Okay, yeah.
Now they have a window into your home and potentially a stepping stone to access even more sensitive information on your computers or phones.
Oh, man. All right, now I'm starting to see the bigger picture.
Yeah,
It's not just about protecting individual devices. It's about securing this whole ecosystem of connected devices that we have in our homes.
precisely. And the more devices you have connected, the larger the potential attack surface becomes.
So it's like a domino effect. One weak link can bring down the whole system.
That's a good way to think about it.
Okay, so we've talked about how hackers can get in, but what's the end game for them? Like, what are they actually after once they've breached a home network?
Data. In most cases, hackers are motivated by one thing: data.
So things like my credit card info, passwords, personal files.
Exactly. They're after your financial data, social security number, login credentials for online accounts, even your photos and videos.
Wow.
Basically anything that's valuable or that they can use for identity theft, blackmail, or other malicious purposes.
It's like they're digital thieves stealing our digital lives.
Kinda, yeah.
That's pretty unsettling, but couldn't they also use my network for things beyond just stealing data?
Yes, absolutely. They can also hijack your network resources to launch attacks on other targets.
So like what? What would they do?
Well, they might use your internet connection to send spam emails, distribute malware, or even participate in denial of service attacks that cripple websites.
So even if I think I don't have anything worth stealing, my network itself could be valuable to them.
Exactly. And that's why cybersecurity is so crucial.
It's about protecting not just your personal information, but the integrity of your entire digital world.
Exactly.
Okay, so I'm getting a little paranoid here.
That's understandable.
But the good news is we can actually do something about it, right?
Absolutely.
There are steps we can take to make our home networks more secure.
There are. And the good news is that many of these steps are surprisingly simple and don't require any advanced tech skills.
Okay, that's good to hear. So what's our first line of defense?
Well, we've already hit on the most important ones: changing those default router settings and using strong, unique passwords for every device and account.
Okay, good. Check and check.
But there's more we can do to build a truly secure digital fortress.
A digital fortress. I like the sound of that.
Right, and it doesn't have to be complicated.
Okay, so what else can we add to our defenses?
Let's talk about encryption.
Encryption.
When you connect to your Wi-Fi network, you want to make sure the connection is encrypted so that no one can snoop on your data as it travels between your devices and the router.
Okay, that makes sense. But how do I know if my network is properly encrypted?
Most modern routers support something called Wi-Fi Protected Access, or WPA.
WPA?
You'll want to look for WPA3, ideally. That's the most recent and secure version.
So WK3 is like the gold standard for Wi-Fi encryption.
Exactly. It uses much stronger encryption algorithms than older protocols like WPA, making it much harder for hackers to crack.
Okay.
You'll usually find this setting in your router's configuration panel, usually accessible through a web browser.
So it's worth taking a few minutes to check my router settings and make sure I'm using the strongest encryption possible.
Absolutely. It's a simple step that can significantly enhance your network security.
Okay, good to know.
Now, another important layer of protection is your router's built-in firewall.
I've heard of firewalls, but honestly, I'm not really sure what they do.
Okay, well, think of a firewall as a digital shield
Okay.
that stands guard between your home network and the outside world.
Oh, okay.
It analyzes incoming and outgoing network traffic and blocks any unauthorized access attempts.
So it's like having a security guard at the door, checking everyone's ID before letting them in.
That's a great analogy.
Okay, I can visualize that.
A firewall helps prevent hackers from directly accessing your devices and keeps malicious software from sneaking onto your network.
Okay, that makes sense. But if a firewall is constantly scanning for threats, won't that slow down my internet speed?
No, not really. Modern firewalls are incredibly efficient and usually have minimal impact on your internet performance.
Oh,
In fact, in some cases, they can even improve your speed by blocking unwanted traffic that might be hogging your bandwidth.
Interesting. I had no idea that firewalls could actually help with speed as well.
Yeah, they can be pretty helpful.
So I'm guessing most routers come with a firewall built in.
Yes, almost all modern routers have a built-in firewall that you can enable through the router settings.
Got it.
It's usually turned on by default, but it's worth double-checking just to be sure.
Enable the firewall check. Are there any other tools or techniques we can use to boost our home network security?
There are. And remember how we talked about the IoT and the potential security risks of those devices?
Yeah, those smart devices.
Well, one way to mitigate those risks is to use a guest network.
Oh, right. My router does have a guest network option. I've
Okay.
never really used it, though.
Well, a guest network is essentially a separate Wi-Fi network that's isolated from your main network.
Okay.
You can give your guests access to the internet without giving them access to your computers, files, or other sensitive devices.
So it's like having a separate wing in my digital house with its own security measures.
exactly.
I can invite guests in without giving them the keys to the whole place.
Exactly. This way, even if someone were to compromise a device on your guest network, they wouldn't be able to easily access your primary network and all the valuable data stored on it.
That's a really smart strategy. I'm definitely going to set up a guest network for my IoT devices and anyone who needs to use my Wi-Fi.
That's a great idea. It's a simple but effective way to add an extra layer of protection to your home network.
Perfect. And speaking of extra protection, let's talk about multi-factor authentication, or MFA.
Ah, yes, MFA, one of my favorite topics.
I've seen that option on some of my online accounts, but
Yeah.
honestly, I always skip it because it just seems like a hassle.
I know. It can feel like an extra step,
Yeah.
but MFA is one of the most powerful tools you have to protect your accounts from unauthorized access.
Okay, I'm willing to hear you out.
Right, good.
How does it work exactly?
It's pretty straightforward. When you enable MFA, logging into your account requires not just your password, but also a second form of verification.
Right.
This could be a code sent to your phone, a fingerprint scan, or a push notification you have to approve.
So even if someone steals my password, they still can't get into my account without that second factor.
Exactly. It's like having two locks on your front door.
Huh?
Even if a thief picks one lock, they still can't get in without the key to the second lock.
That makes a lot of sense.
Good. And these days, so much of our lives is online.
Yeah,
Banking, email, social media, all that.
it's true.
It seems like using MFA for those important accounts is a no-brainer.
Okay, you've convinced me MFA it is.
Good.
But I'm guessing there are different types of MFA, right?
You're right. There are several different methods, each with its pros and cons.
Like what?
Some rely on codes sent via text message or email,
Okay.
while others use dedicated apps that generate time-based codes.
Okay.
And then there's a newer, even more secure method using physical security keys called FIDO2 devices.
FIDO2 devices. Those sound serious.
They are. A FIDO2 device is a small physical device like a USB key
Okay.
that you plug into your computer or phone when logging into an account.
Gotcha.
It acts as a hardware-based second factor, making it extremely difficult for hackers to compromise.
So it's like a physical key to my accounts.
You got it. It provides a much higher level of security compared to SMS or email-based codes
Why is that?
because those can be intercepted or spoofed.
Oh, wow. That's good to know.
Yeah, so if you were really concerned about your account security,
Uh-huh.
I would suggest looking into FIDO2 devices for your most critical accounts.
Okay, FIDO2 devices. Noted.
Good.
So we've covered a lot of ground here. Strong passwords, firmware updates, encryption, firewalls, guest networks, and MFA.
Yeah, we have.
Is there anything else we should be thinking about when it comes to home network security?
Yes, there is one last but crucial point. Cybersecurity is a family affair.
Oh, that's interesting.
It's important to educate everyone in your household about online threats and best practices.
Yeah, that's a great point. It's not just about securing the devices, it's about educating the users.
Exactly. And that's something we'll be diving into in part 2 of this deep dive.
Perfect. Well, I'm looking forward to that.
Me too.
So until then, stay safe out there, everyone.
So, cybersecurity is a family affair.
Yeah, it really is. Like, how do you keep things secure without making it feel like everyone's under digital house arrest?
Right. Like you want to be safe, but you don't want to be constantly like looking over everyone's shoulders.
Exactly. Like, I want to trust my family to make good choices online,
Yeah.
but I also know that sometimes accidents happen or people fall for scams without realizing it.
Right. And let's be honest, security measures can sometimes feel inconvenient.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But the trick is to frame it not as restriction, but as empowerment.
Okay, I like that.
It's about giving your family the knowledge and tools to protect themselves,
Yeah.
not just locking down the network and calling it a day.
Right. So it's more about education and open communication than just setting a bunch of rules.
Absolutely. A good place to start is by having a family discussion about online safety.
Family me meeting.
Yeah, explain why you're taking these security steps, what the risks are, and how everyone can contribute to creating a safer online environment for the whole family.
Yeah, instead of just saying, don't click on suspicious links.
Right.
Explain why it's dangerous and what could happen if they do.
Exactly. Make it relevant to their lives.
Oh, yeah, good point.
Talk about things like protecting their gaming accounts
Mm.
or social media profiles. Show them real-world examples of what can happen when people fall victim to cyber attacks.
Yeah, make it real for them.
Yeah, exactly.
I like that approach, making cybersecurity personal and relatable, not just some abstract set of rules.
And remember, this isn't a one-time conversation.
Oh, right.
It's an ongoing dialogue.
Gotcha.
As technology evolves and new threats emerge, you'll need to revisit these conversations and adjust your security practices accordingly.
So it's like anything else in parenting.
Exactly.
You have to stay involved and adapt as your kids grow and their digital lives change.
Precisely. And don't underestimate the power of leading by example.
Oh, that's a good point.
If your kids see you taking online security seriously,
Yeah.
using strong passwords, being cautious about what you click on, regularly updating your devices,
Right.
they're more likely to adopt those habits themselves.
Yeah, kids are always watching what we do, even when we think they're not paying attention.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to involve them in the process.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Let them help choose passwords, set up guest networks, or research different security tools.
To get them involved.
Yeah. The more they feel like they're part of the solution, the more invested they'll be in maintaining good security habits.
It's like anything else. People are more likely to follow rules they helped create.
Exactly. And remember, mistakes will happen.
Oh, for sure.
It's inevitable.
Yeah.
The important thing is to create a safe space where your family members feel comfortable coming to you if they do make a mistake,
Yeah.
or if they encounter something suspicious online.
That's such an important point. We need to foster an environment where people aren't afraid to admit they clicked on a bad link or gave out information they shouldn't have.
Absolutely. Shame and secrecy only make things worse.
Right.
Open communication is key to addressing security issues quickly and effectively.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, so we've talked a lot about the family dynamic.
Uh-huh.
But what about guests who come over and want to use our Wi-Fi?
Yeah.
Is it safe to give them access to our main network? Or should we always use the guest network?
That's a great question, and it really depends on your comfort level and the nature of your relationship with the guest.
Okay.
If it's someone you trust implicitly
Yeah.
and they only need temporary access, giving them the main Wi-Fi password might be fine.
Okay, but if it's someone I don't know as well, or if
Yeah.
they need access for a longer period of time, the guest network is the safer option.
Exactly. It provides a layer of isolation,
Right.
limiting their access to your primary network and devices.
It makes sense. It's like having a separate guest room in your house.
Uh-huh.
It's comfortable and welcoming,
Right.
but it doesn't give them free reign of the entire property.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
And if you're really concerned about security,
Yeah.
you can even customize your guest network settings,
Oh, really?
limiting bandwidth, blocking certain types of websites, or setting time limits for access.
So it's not just a simple on-off switch.
Right.
You can really tailor the guest network to your specific needs and comfort level.
Exactly. Technology gives us a lot of control these days if we know how to use it.
That's pretty cool.
And remember, it's okay to say no to someone who asks for your Wi-Fi password.
Oh, yeah, good point.
You have the right to protect your network and your data.
That's reassuring. Sometimes it's easy to feel pressured to share our Wi-Fi,
Yeah.
but ultimately it's our responsibility to make sure it's being used safely and responsibly.
Absolutely. It's your digital domain, and you get to set the rules.
Speaking of rules, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on parental controls. Are they a useful tool for managing family network security, or are they more trouble than they're worth?
Parental controls can definitely be a helpful tool, especially for younger children who are just starting to explore the online world.
Okay.
They can help you filter out inappropriate content,
Right.
limit screen time,
Yeah.
and monitor your child's online activity.
But I imagine there are some downsides, too.
Of course, parental controls aren't a foolproof solution,
Right.
and they can sometimes be bypassed by tech-savvy kids.
Yeah, that's true.
Plus, they can create an atmosphere of distrust if not implemented thoughtfully.
So it's important to have open conversations for your kids about why you're using parental controls
Uh-huh.
and to make sure they understand that it's not about spying on them, but about keeping them safe.
Exactly. Frame it as a partnership,
Okay.
not a power struggle.
Gotcha.
And remember, the goal is to gradually give them more freedom and responsibility as they mature and demonstrate good digital citizenship.
So it's not about locking them down forever. It's about giving them the tools and guidance they need to navigate the online world safely and responsibly.
Precisely. And as they get older,
Yeah?
you can involve them more in the decision-making process, letting them have a say in what limits are set and why.
That's a great way to empower them and teach them valuable life skills.
And don't forget, parental controls aren't just for kids.
Oh, right.
They can also be useful for managing the security of other vulnerable family members,
Like who?
like seniors who might be more susceptible to scams or online fraud.
Oh, that's a good point.
It's about tailoring your security approach to the specific needs and vulnerabilities of each individual in your household.
So there's no one-size-fits-all solution.
Right.
It's about finding what works best for your family.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here, from strong passwords and firewalls to the importance of open communication and educating everyone in the household about online safety.
Yeah, we have.
It's clear that home network security is a multifaceted challenge, but it's one we can definitely tackle with the right knowledge and approach.
Absolutely. And the more we all do our part to secure our home networks,
Yeah,
the safer and more resilient the digital world becomes for everyone.
right. It's a collective effort,
Exactly.
and every step we take makes a difference.
Okay, so we've talked about the technical side of things.
Yeah.
And we've explored the family dynamics of sharing a network.
Right. But I'm wondering, how do we keep up with the ever-evolving threat landscape? It seems like every day there's a new virus or hacking technique to worry about.
That's a great question.
Like, how do we stay ahead of the curve?
It leads us to the importance of staying informed and adaptable when it comes to cybersecurity.
Okay.
There are a few key things you can do to stay ahead of the curve.
All right, I'm listening.
First, make it a habit to read about cybersecurity news and updates.
Okay, are there any particular sources you recommend?
Absolutely. There are many reputable websites and blogs dedicated to cybersecurity news and advice.
Like what?
Sites like Krebs on Security, Threat Post, and the Hacker News are great places to start.
Okay, so stay informed. What else?
Second, consider subscribing to security alerts and newsletters from trusted organizations
Okay.
like the National Institute of Standards and Technology, or NIST,
NIST.
or the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, CS.
CISA.
They provide timely updates on emerging threats and vulnerabilities.
So it's like having a team of cybersecurity experts looking out for you.
Yeah, and keeping you in the loop.
Okay, so stay informed, subscribe to alerts.
And third, be sure to check for security updates for all your devices and software regularly.
Right, updates.
Many vulnerabilities are discovered and patched through software updates, so keeping everything up to date is crucial for maintaining a strong security posture.
Okay, so stay informed, subscribe to alerts, and keep everything updated.
Exactly.
Those are all great tips, but it sounds like a lot to keep track of.
It can feel overwhelming at first, but the good news is that many of these updates can be automated.
Oh, thank goodness.
Set your devices to automatically download and install security updates.
Right.
And consider using a password manager that will alert you when one of your passwords has been compromised in a data breach.
Oh, that's a relief.
Automation takes a lot of the pressure off.
It really does. It's like having a digital security system that's always running in the background, protecting you even when you're not actively thinking about it.
Exactly. And as we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I want to emphasize that cybersecurity isn't just about technology.
Okay.
It's also about mindset.
Mindset.
It's about developing a healthy skepticism towards anything that seems suspicious online
Yeah.
and being cautious about what information you share and with whom.
So it's about being aware,
Yeah.
being proactive, and being smart about our online interactions.
Exactly. And it's about remembering that we all have a role to play in creating a safer digital world.
Right. We're all in this together.
By taking responsibility for our own cybersecurity
Right.
and sharing what we learn with others.
Yeah, huh?
We can collectively make the internet a more secure and trustworthy place for everyone.
Okay. Well said.
Now, before we move on,
Yeah.
I want to circle back to something you mentioned earlier,
Okay.
the idea of balancing security with convenience,
Right.
especially in a shared home network.
Yeah, that's something I've been thinking about a lot.
It's a fantastic question, and
Yeah.
it's one that every household needs to grapple with.
Yeah.
Finding that sweet spot
Right.
between security and convenience is a key part of creating a digital environment that's both safe and enjoyable for everyone.
Yeah, I agree, because we don't want to make it so secure that it's impossible to use,
Right.
but we also don't want to leave ourselves vulnerable to attacks.
Exactly. It's all about finding that balance.
Okay, well, I am definitely looking forward to exploring that more in the next part of our deep dive.
Me too. It's going to be good.
It really is a balancing act, like, how do we create a network that's secure enough to protect our data and devices, but also user-friendly enough for everyone in the family to actually enjoy using it?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question.
Right.
And unfortunately, there's no single right answer.
Oh, okay.
The ideal balance will vary depending on your family's specific needs and values and comfort levels.
So it's less about finding a magic formula
Right.
and more about having an open and honest conversation about what works best for our unique situation.
Exactly. It all starts with communication.
Oh, okay.
Talk to your family about their online habits, their concerns, and their expectations for privacy and security.
It's about understanding everyone's perspective and finding a compromise that respects individual needs while still prioritizing the overall security of the network.
Precisely. And remember, it's not a one-time conversation.
Right.
As technology evolves and new threats emerge,
Yeah.
you'll need to revisit these discussions and adjust your security practices accordingly.
So it's an ongoing dialogue, a process of continuous adaptation and refinement.
Absolutely. And don't be afraid to experiment with different approaches.
Okay.
What works for one family might not work for another.
Right.
It's about finding the right balance for your unique circumstances.
That makes a lot of sense. So what are some practical strategies for finding that balance between security and convenience?
Yeah.
I'm thinking specifically about families with teenagers who are, more independent and have their own online lives.
Right. Teenagers are at a unique stage where they're craving independence and privacy,
Yeah.
but they're also still developing their judgment and decision-making skills,
Right.
especially when it comes to online safety.
So it's a tricky situation, to say the least.
It is.
We want to give them the freedom to explore the digital world,
Yeah,
but we also want to protect them from potential harm.
exactly. And it's a challenge many parents grapple with.
Right.
One approach is to involve teenagers in the decision-making process, giving them a voice in setting boundaries and establishing security protocols.
So instead of just dictating the rules,
Right.
we involve them in the conversation and empower them to be part of the solution.
Yeah. Precisely. Explain the risks and the reasons behind certain security measures.
Okay.
Help them understand that it's not about controlling their online behavior, but about protecting their digital well-being.
And by giving them a seat at the table,
Mhm.
they're more likely to buy into the rules and take ownership of their online safety.
Exactly. And don't underestimate the power of education.
Okay.
Talk to them about the dangers of phishing scams, social engineering, and other online threats.
Yeah.
Encourage them to think critically about the information they encounter online and to be cautious about sharing personal information.
So it's about equipping them with the knowledge and skills they need to make smart decisions online, even when we're not there to guide them.
Absolutely. And remember, it's not about scaring them or turning them into digital hermits.
Right.
It's about empowering them to be responsible and discerning digital citizens.
That's a great way to frame it. So we've talked about teenagers, but what about younger children who might be even more vulnerable online? What are some strategies for keeping them safe without completely restricting their access to the internet?
That's a really important question, and it's one that deserves careful consideration.
Yeah.
For younger children, parental controls can be a valuable tool for creating a safer online environment.
I know parental controls can be a bit controversial,
Right.
but it sounds like you see them as a potentially useful part of a balanced approach.
Exactly. Parental controls aren't a substitute for open communication and education,
Right.
but they can provide an extra layer of protection, especially for younger children who might not yet have the maturity or discernment to navigate the online world safely on their own.
So it's like training wheels for the internet, helping them develop good online habits while still allowing them to explore and have fun.
That's a great analogy.
I like that.
And just like with training wheels,
Yeah.
the goal is to gradually give them more freedom and responsibility as they grow and mature.
So it's not about locking them out of the internet forever, but about providing a safe and supervised environment where they can learn and develop good digital citizenship skills.
Precisely. And remember, there's a wide range of parental control options available.
Okay.
Some allow you to filter out inappropriate content, while others let you set time limits for online activities.
So it's about choosing the tools and settings that align with your family's values and your child's developmental stage.
Exactly. And it's important to revisit those settings periodically as your child grows and their needs change.
Okay, so we've talked about teenagers, younger children, and guests.
Yeah.
But what about ourselves?
Oh, yeah.
What are some things we can do to improve our own online security habits and become more mindful digital citizens?
That's a great question.
Like, we focused on the kids.
It's easy to get caught up in protecting our families and forget about our own online security.
Yeah, totally.
But it's crucial that we lead by example and practice good cybersecurity hygiene ourselves.
So it's about walking the walk, not just talking the talk.
Exactly. Start by being mindful of the information you share online.
Okay.
Think before you post and avoid sharing sensitive personal data like your home address, phone number, or financial information.
It's like the old adage, think before you speak, but for the digital age.
Exactly. And be wary of phishing scams and other social engineering tactics.
Right.
Remember, if something seems too good to be true, it probably is.
So don't click on links from unknown senders and be skeptical of emails or messages that ask for personal information or urge you to take immediate action.
Precisely. And make sure you're using strong, unique passwords for all your online accounts. And consider using a password manager to help you keep track of them.
You know, we've talked a lot about password managers, but they're worth mentioning again
Yes,
because they're such a powerful tool for improving our online security.
I completely agree. And don't forget about the importance of keeping your software and devices up to date.
Right, those updates.
Many security vulnerabilities are patched through software updates.
Yeah.
So make sure you're installing those updates regularly.
It's like giving your digital immune system a booster shot, helping it stay strong against the latest threats.
That's a great way to put it. And finally,
Yeah.
remember that cybersecurity is an ongoing journey, not a destination.
Right.
It's about staying informed, adapting to new threats, and continuously refining your security practices.
So it's not about achieving perfect security,
Right.
but about striving to be as secure as possible given our individual circumstances and the ever-evolving threat landscape.
Exactly. It's about being proactive, being vigilant, and being willing to learn and adapt as technology advances.
Well said. I think that's a powerful message to end on.
Yeah.
Cybersecurity is a shared responsibility,
It is.
and it's something we all need to take seriously, both for our own protection and for the safety of our families and communities.
I agree.
Well, folks, that concludes our deep dive into the fascinating and ever-evolving world of home network security.
Yeah.
We hope this episode has provided you with valuable insights, practical tips, and perhaps a renewed sense of empowerment as you navigate the digital landscape. Remember, knowledge is power,
It is.
and by staying informed and taking proactive steps to protect ourselves and our loved ones, we can all contribute to a safer and more secure online world.
Stay safe out there.
And until next time, happy surfing.